Hi and welcome to Nafta Review. I'm your host, Buddy1927. Today we are reviewing the Tog Ii, Tier 6 Heavy Premium British Tank. Before we get into the review, I like to actually give you a little history and show you an actual Tog Ii. This is an actual Tog Ii. As you can see, you have a woman standing in front of this tank. This woman is not a midget. This is a full-grown woman, and because of the size of this tank, her head only comes up to about half the track size of this tank. If you look to the left, you see two other tanks. The hull of the Tog Ii is actually taller than the two tanks themselves. For them to actually get this tank into the garage that it's in right now, they actually had to take the turret off, bring the tank in, the hull of the tank in, then brought the turret in, and then with a crane put the turret back together, put the turret on top of the hull. The name TOG is actually an acronym. It stands for the Old Gang. The Old Gang was the name of the developing committee that developed this tank. This tank was actually produced in 1941. The sole purpose of the development committee was to develop the largest and heaviest tank larger than heavier than the German army could produce, and the British army actually did. They actually produced these tanks, and they actually did see battle. One unique thing about this that the design committee actually forgot to take in consideration. This tank was so big and massive, it weighed over 85 tons. When they first produced this tank, they didn't have scales large enough to weigh this tank, so they actually had to, what they did is they actually took two scales. They had the tank drive up on one scale, lift up the rear with a crane, slide another scale underneath, and put the rear down. They had to actually use two scales to weigh this tank. They did produce the largest and heaviest heavy tank during World War II. It was larger than heavier than any of the German tanks. I also think this was the largest and heaviest tank ever produced in the world. The design committee forgot two very important things. As I said earlier, they forgot to make this mobile or maneuverable. This tank during battles could not fight in urban battles because it could not fit down the city's streets. For this tank to actually, when it saw combat, it actually fought shooting into the towns and cities or in open field. The tank, it was so wide and so big it could not actually maneuver through the cities. So when it came up to a city, it actually had to go around the cities to be able to continue fighting. The second thing that developers forgot to do is actually make this have some speed. The fastest this tank could actually do was 14 kilometers per hour, which is not very fast at all. Well, that's about it for the history. We're going to actually take a view of this tank. As you can see, this is a NAFTA tank. It has this NAFTA seal. It also has Buddy1927 seal, the skull and helmet. I nicknamed this tank the Steel Warrior, and you'll see why in the video clip following this. The tank itself is actually not a bad looking tank. It's long. It's not very maneuverable. But these markings here kind of remind me of a giraffe. And if you ever see a giraffe, it has similar markings. It's tall, it's long. Well, this thing is tall and long. So it kind of reminds me of a giraffe. What we're going to do next is actually bring up our tank inspector and actually show on tank inspector the Armour itself. That's the rear of the tank, so let's turn this around, bring it forward. Remember, the darker the color, the better the tank, the better the Armour. The front hull on this thing has 76 millimeters of armor, but due to the slope it actually gives it a little bit more, and if you angle it just a little bit, it actually does pretty good. The front hull, the turret, has 114 millimeters of armor. If you are facing this tank head on, the weak parts are these two hatches right here, these two windows right here. Now on the side of this tank, it has 76 millimeters of armor, and both on the hull and on the turret. But you have this little sliver, which actually gives it, which a lot of people like hitting right here. I don't know why, but it's actually about 200 millimeters of armor. If you ever get a side shot on this thing, this is where you want to hit, either here or on the rear of the tank here. This is the weakest point. This is one of the hatches. That's the weakest spot on this tank. On the rear of the tank, let's turn this thing sideways. Oops, sorry, my program went a little haywire. Rear of this tank, zoom out. There we go. The rear hull has 50 millimeters of armor, and the rear turret has 53 millimeters of armor. It does have a nice slope, so it does give you some ricochet shots, but that's the weakest part on the tank. Okay, that does it for the hull. Minimize that. And the next thing we're going to be talking about is the specs on this tank. Okay, it has 1,400 hit points. Before you have it fully equipped, it has 81.76 tons. Fully equipped, after you put all your stuff on it, it weighs roughly 85 tons. That's a lot of weight. Horsepower on this is 600 horsepowers. Okay, the speed on this tank. It says 14 kilometers per hour. That's only if you're going downhill. Take your crew members, your 6 crew members, have them come outside while it's going downhill and push. It might reach 14 kilometers per hour. This is the slowest tank in World of Tanks, but also the most underrated tank in World of Tanks. Traverse speed is 20 degrees per second, which is actually faster than the tank can actually go forward. We already went over the hull and the turret hull armor. The standard shell damage does 113 to 188 of damage. Average penetration, standard penetration on this thing is 128 to 214. Rate of fire is 12 rounds per minute. The turret speed is 32 degrees per second. Turn this a little bit more. View range on this is 360 meters, and the signal range is 570 meters. That's not bad at all. Okay. Next we're going to be talking about the gun on this tank. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to blow this up for you. Okay, the gun is a tier 7 OOF 17 Grow. It basically is a 76 caliber gun on it. Rate of fire again is 12 rounds per minute. Average penetration is 171, 120, 239, and 38. Average damage is 150, 150, and 190. Sorry. Accuracy on this gun is .36, which means it's extremely accurate. And the weight of the gun, and you can see right there. This gun was only produced for the Tog Ii. One thing I will say about the Tog, a lot of people make fun of this tank. People joke, oh, the Togs are here, watch out, blah blah blah. This is also the most underrated tank there is. and you'll see in the video clip that you can see the damage that this TOG can actually do. Here at NAFTA, we actually have several people that have these tanks, and we actually do TOG platoons, 2 or 3 of these tanks in a platoon, and we usually end up in the top 2 or 3 damage on this. If you have a good crew on this tank can actually do a lot of damage. The only drawback to this tank, it is slow and it is not maneuverable at all. When you are facing the enemy, always face frontwards or a little bit awkwards. You want to give it the profile, as little profile as possible. As you can see, the profile on the side, you got a huge target on there. And like I said, right here is the weakest part of this tank right there. But when you face the enemy, a little angle, and you should do pretty good. So that's it for the review of this tank. Oh yeah, I forgot to go over the crews. It does have a crew of 6. It has a gunner, a commander, a driver, a radio operator, and 2 loaders. One thing about premium tank, this is a premium tank. You can take your crews, like the crew I have on here is from my Churchill 1. I'm currently going up the British Heavy line also. And you can take your crew out of the Churchill 1 and put them on this tank to gain experience. It does not cost you any penalties to do this. All you have to do is just transfer over. You do not retrain your crew to the TOG. Just keep them on the train for the Churchill. Doesn't cost you any penalty, and they operate the tank just like it was a Churchill 1. This helps grind your crew up. And one other thing, this is a premium tank. With a premium tank, you earn extra credits. Now, most premium tanks come with a stock equipment. It has a tier 6 engine. It has a tier 6 turret, but does have a tier 7 gun, which is unusual for a premium tank, because usually the gun itself on a premium tank is usually 1 tier lower than what the tier is. So World of Tanks actually did the TOG a favor and actually gave it a tier 7 gun instead of a tier 5 gun, which actually makes it a little bit more powerful than most premium tanks. It does come with a tier 5 engine, tier 6 tracks, but it does come with the tier 9 radio. I do have the shell rammer, medium caliber gun rammer. I do run this with enhanced gun lane drive, and I do run this with vents. I do run only standard AP rounds, and I do have a couple HE rounds loaded on this tank. So let's go see what this tank looks like when it's in action. Okay, we're in our TOG 2. We're in Indadolf. We're ranked 2nd on our team. We're going to see what this baby can do. This is the TOG 2, the premium tier 5 heavy British premium tank. As you can see by the wonderful lines, this is actually a good looking tank, a little long. Compared to the other ones, it looks like a giraffe. It even has the spots of the giraffe. We're going to speed things up a little bit. Okay, we're being helped by Churchill 2, and you can see the difference in size between the TOG and the Churchill 2. This Churchill 1, I'm sorry. Churchill 1 is tier 5 regular heavy tank. Look at the difference in this thing. The TOG is nothing but a pure beast. We're going to speed this up because the TOG is kind of slow. People make a lot of fun of this tank and laugh at it because of its size. It has a good size. It is slow, but once it gets into battle, you get to see. I'm going to stop right here. I am going to show you something. We got 6 tanks on the enemy side up there on top of the ridge. We got 4 going up, and we got 1 down here below. And this is important. This is, I mean, they're going up. They're kind of spread out. They're not focused in the fire. And by the time we get up, you'll see what happens. By the time we actually get into position here, missed the Churchill. Good hit on the Churchill. One thing about the Tog, it has a quick reload. Move up a little bit more, and as you can see, basically by the time we get set up, now they're rushing over top of the hill because they took out the guys that were climbing up. Hit the KV-1, and here we go. We'll just go and pummel those guys up here. We're actually holding that push. Our first kill. We're holding the push. The rest of the tanks are coming down, and we're just holding them up. I guess they see the Tog, they're afraid of it. Okay. And they have all rights to be afraid of this Tog. Look at the damage this Tog is doing to these tanks, and it's holding these tanks at bay. Okay, that's kill number 2 for the Tog, and just look at the damage this Tog is doing. We've done 14-12 so far. And with this, almost every hit that we hit, we throw up there is hitting. It's like go back to this Churchill over here. Okay, kill number 3 for the Tog. 6 tanks. Kill number 4. 6 tanks. We've killed 4 of them so far, and we held the push. It's amazing. We've held the push. We are actually winning 7-5 right now. Kill number 5. 8-5. We're actually winning this game. Yay! And now I do something totally stupid. I hit the KV-2. Did some damage. Sent him to hide. I got bumped there. Had a perfect side shot. Got bumped. Got bumped again. Now I'm going to take on this KV-2. Just did no damage. 2 hits on him. 3 hits on him. And we are done right there. So, as you can see, we are dead here. And we have actually lost the game. As you can see. Our tank shot a total of 27 shots, 23 hits for 85-19. But look at this. I mean, this is one thing I like to say about this Tog. We received 61,365 credits, 1,050 research points, and this is a defeat, guys. But look at, because of the power of the Tog, it still makes money. It still makes credits. Okay, let's go to the team page. And as you can see, here we go. The Tog did do the top damage with 5 kills, 2,743 damage. Almost triple of the next guy on our team, who only did 947. As you can see, the Tog overall on both teams did more damage than both teams. I mean, he did the most damage of all the tanks in this battle. That's great. And a lot of people say the Tog is just an easy mark and they die quickly. But look at, I mean, the damage itself that the Tog has done. Okay, we're gonna go to the other one. Okay, as we said, we did 27 shots, 23 direct hits, 21 penetration for 2,743. We received 34 hits, 15 penetration and 19 non-penetration. They did 3,855 damage to us. We damaged a total of 7 tanks. We destroyed 5. And as you can see, after repairs and ammunition supply, we still made 52,173. And remember, guys, this is a defeat, but we still made those in credits. Research points, 1,050. Remember this, guys. This is still a defeat. Duration of the game was 10 minutes and 58 seconds. We played for a total of 5 minutes and 23 seconds. I screwed up this match, and if I didn't die, and I did take out that KV2, what more damage this Tog could do. I like the Tog. The Tog is good. I'd like to thank you again for watching Nafta Reviews. If you like this episode, please like us on YouTube. If you all have any other comments, you can leave them on the YouTube page. If you're a NAFTA clan member, you can leave comments on the forums, or you can make comments to me on TeamSpeak. I'd like to thank you again for watching NAFTA Review, and you all save me some tanks on the battlefield. Have a good day.